Just gotta put on my my presence. Okay, good. What was it that what was the impact that had you really want to have me come? No, not yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that particular workshop we're really like highlighting surrendered leadership, and it's kind of the core of I think what circling is about or points to is, and it even the title kind of holds this leadership aspect of like you're really self leadership. You're in every moment you're taking responsibility for what's yours, um, or if you're not, you're kind of dealing with the consequences of it. So yeah, when you're out of integrity, you can see how that affects your life and everything around you. And then, of course, in the workshop, we can practice that. You can kind of see, oh, if I take responsibility for this, this vulnerable attraction or this kind of joy that I'm afraid to show because I'm going to be ousted, or this anger that I've never really expressed. Like, that's amazing. And yeah, the other side of it is the surrender of both. Yeah, you're surrendering what's not yours to take responsibility for, but you're also surrendering to the impact of the group. Like we're in another, we're in, we're always in connection with people around us, or with nature, or the environment, and what we do just it seems inescapably impacts the people around us. So we're really opening to that, to open yourself to share what's happening, even if it's being closed, and then to receive the feedback. It's in some ways it's simple. It's what we're always already doing, and in other ways, like bringing awareness to it, brings an incredible magic. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the it's funny. It's all. I don't know if these concepts are useful, but the way it comes to me is it's kind of like the yin yang symbol of like there's the deeper you go into like yin, the deeper you go into yang, or you can, I think, and vice versa. And each one holds a piece of the other. So an interruption, to me, in one way, it's actually bringing in sharper discernment, sharper masculine, a sharper yang, of saying like, hey, like there is a structure here, or there's a power hierarchy, or there's what you're saying doesn't make any sense, and I'm not going to just sit here and let you go on and on when there's 30 people that like really care about what's happening. And on the other hand, the strange irony of it, the white dot in the black paint, is that ends up creating more inclusiveness, because if I just let somebody go on without interrupting them, they're they're kind of, it's like a tyranny of the minority, or a tyranny of consensus, that like other people who have important things to say now are just they're following a social norm of not interrupting rather than like following their heart. Yeah. So it's yeah, I mean that's the kind of theory behind it, but usually what happens in the moment is I can tell or it, I can't always tell what's happening for them, but I do have a pretty sharp eye for when somebody's really embodying what they're saying. And yeah, the impact on me and I think on all of us, it tends to be when people are fully alive in their being, it lights us up and it doesn't matter what the emotion is. It doesn't matter if it's even like a deep grief. It's just so enlivening to be there with somebody. And if they're just kind of reporting about it, like telling us the weather report of their interior, it tends to be really boring and really dry. And my mind goes, like, my attention just goes to other places. So it's like, yeah, sometimes I'm just owning what's true for me. Like, hey, I can't stay focused. I wonder if you're really there. Or sometimes I might just cut in and say, like now's not the time. It seems like something else is going on. And even in that, it's cutting in, but then being open to the impact. Yeah. Yeah, I think T groups are like really a wonderful practice for developing like like I think Guy will call the sovereign, this capacity to really know what's happening in you and share it. And um and yeah, like the thing about like the if that's just it, it feels unbalanced. Like it feels like it only represents half of reality, which is that you're always speaking into a collective. So we found like for a while we call like the circles we were doing were called leadership development circles because people were pushed to their edge of their own personal leadership, like where they hide from discomfort or they're unwilling to really step up or where they're unwilling to step back. But then what we found is that that really de-emphasized the fact of surrender. So it's like, yeah, we just had to bring that back in because it just feels such an important part of reality. Yeah. Yeah. And it really is like these balance like these that support each other where like your self leadership is grown by your willingness and capacity to be in connection. Mm, right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't I don't know like how to relate it, but just the thing that I want to bring up is there's something that circling does incredibly well, which is this kind of being with another in their world. Yeah, yeah. For us with Circling Europe, we have these 5 principles, and yeah, it just seems important to mention that's equally a part as like in any of those stages. Like you can be a warrior being with somebody in their world. Like it happens to me not infrequently that somebody is kind of like, for example, they might have a lot of self judgment, and they're like, oh, well, I just need to like get rid of this, right? Like this is really unhealthy. Just positive thinking. Like they've been told like self judgment's no good, and so they're judging their self judgment. But in a way, it's like if you really kind of start to tune in, and you see them as this totally innocent being, like of course they would have self judgment if they live the life they live. Then it's like you can see them through these eyes of innocence that they can't see themselves through. And then you can offer them that in a way that often challenges deeply to the core of who they think they are. So somebody's coming in and saying like, yeah, I'm just such a crappy person for this and this reason. And you're like, and but I know that's bad to say that. And you're like, well, wait, let's see, like, what's true about that judgment? Are you a crappy person? And then it's like, and like, that's okay. And then this is a weird example, but then they're like, okay, yeah, actually, I am crappy to this person for this reason, but I'm not for this reason. And we start getting clearer distinctions. I'm like, the self judgment is dead on in work, but not in relationships. Or maybe with your kids, you're amazing, but with your husband, you are crappy. And so it's something like learning to trust these things that are arising in us while also building in that discernment is another huge piece of it for me. Right. Yeah, how was it? How was the willingness to do that? When you say trust is high, like what are you trusting? Yeah. Mm. How do you feel about that? A little like, but yeah. Mm. Mm. I love that. Yeah, I have to be open. Just Yeah, I'm just feeling that, like, I have to be open. Almost like a potential, like a potential of lightness, like love. Mm, mm. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that connection you have to what's bigger than you. In a way, it's what we were just talking about. Like, there's something bigger than me. Like, circling just kind of like was a wave that swept me up. And luckily, I had enough of a board that I could surf it. Um, yeah, and it kind of grew in a way really quickly, in a way kind of slowly. Like, found it, I kind of liked it. I started leading circles, and then I got deeper and deeper until I was like building my entire life around it. So yeah, I think it was like a call that I answered, and like, I mean, I was in between a bunch of stuff, and like, yeah, I was like circling just because I loved it, and like doing modeling jobs on the side because I needed to like make money to just follow this passion. And um, I loved it because of this the deep sense of presence that's possible in every moment. And yeah, it was like I thought things were going really well in my life, and they were, but it was like there was I was at like 10%. And I could see in the circles like having these experiences of, yeah, of like just almost like mystical experiences, seeing archetypes and crazy faces and light, and like going into darkness and despair that I didn't realize was inside of me. And like I can tend towards arrogance. So I felt like yeah, I felt like, oh, I never, like, I always was the driver of my own development, and like I had coaches and therapists, but like it was always kind of like, this is all right. None of it's that great. And then I got into circling, and it was like, what the fuck? Like, every circle, there's something I didn't see before about myself that's being like exposed to everyone. And like, I don't, I was also, part of my arrogance is bolstered by integral theory. So, in like developmental lenses. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm pretty complex. And then I'm like, wait, now I'm getting like these new insights from like people that are, you know, at completely fundamentalist developmental levels, like amber or blue or third order, and like they're giving me feedback that is like penetrating me to the core. And like, wait, that means I could be open to this kind of feedback from anyone at any time. And then suddenly, like, the waitress says something that touches my heart, and I want to cry. And it's like life becomes this huge like theater or playground where I'm just constantly in love and being heartbroken. And it's like, yeah, I feel my heart now as I talk about it. Yeah. It's a good question. Who I want to come is people who are just really curious and excited to explore something new. People who have that sense of have to be open to the mystery that you spoke about. I think that's all that's required, and that really bringing that in allows so much spontaneity and creativity to flow through us, and the self-organizing of the group just becomes magic. Um, so yeah, when coming in with too many ideas of how it should be, you can still have an amazing time, but it just it's kind of a it's kind of like trying to direct the flow of a river. Yeah, yeah, I, I, yeah. I mean, I love maps as well. I, yeah, and well, yeah, I really love maps. I wrote a book about integral theory through a zombie apocalypse lens, but because of my love for this map that I think is so meaningful, and I think there's a limit to the depth that we can go to without maps, like without being able to really understand what's happening. Like it's experience just kind of is, and then it goes. So it's kind of like a state experience for a lot of times, like a dream. It fades. Whereas, yeah, if you have a good map, it can really help one kind of ground into the experience and be more open to it. I think that's true of all maps. Like they can separate you from reality. You can be so busy looking at the map that you forget to enjoy what's happening. And it's helpful to be able to navigate so you can go to where the coolest stuff is instead of getting lost in like a bog or something. But yeah, the flip side is true as well. Like that the maps can have us relating to our ideas about reality instead of really being here. So even if I relate to you as Mihai, the guy I know, that's useful and that I need that. But if I forget that you're also like a spontaneous, like self cohering, like collection of multiple beings, then like I'm gonna box you into something that you're not actually, it's not true, and I'm gonna close myself to seeing these beautiful things about you that I would never would open to. So yeah, I really encourage people to come with their maps and bring those in. Like those are gifts that they can offer the circle, when that arising comes, but also to hold them all very lightly. Because that's my map that I want to hold lightly as well. Yeah, I know I didn't answer your question about who not to come, but yeah, hmm, absolutely. Lots of love.